If someone asked me the other day for the first time, a question I maybe should have known, I should have been asked before, what was it like when you first found out about slavery? And I could never remember. But all I remembered as a young person was a tremendous sense of shame, a real sense of, embarrassment, really. So in some ways, I think, I want to make this film in some ways, as I said before, to somehow try to sort of embrace it and tame it, master it, but also to sort of to make it mine as such. It's very important that. So I went into researching slavery as such with open eyes. I couldn't go in there with a preconceived idea. It's just not me. So whatever happens, whatever I would have discovered, I would have discovered. So it was just trying to look for a way in to the tale. And the way in for me was the whole idea of a free man who gets caught into slavery. And what I liked about that is that everyone in the audience could relate to Solomon, being taken away from his family. So therefore, you're on that journey with him. So I thought that could be interesting. And then, of course, my wife, after speaking with her, she found this book. And I thought, what's this book? And I sort of had it in my hand. And I opened the book, and I looked at it, and it was strange because you have an idea, and it becomes this screenplay, basically, in your hand. It's incredible. And that was it. In the book, he calls on God a lot. But for me, that wasn't interesting. I mean, that was interesting, but it was about his own self-determination, his own character, his own gathering up of his own will in order to keep on going. It was much more my interest. And of course, when we do have that symbol, that image of him joining with the choir, with Roland involved. For me, it was a moment of it was a cathartic sort of it was a cathartic moment. You had to pour out. You had to come out at some point. That for me was that one to be what you spoke about. From the West Indian family. And I imagine in the United States, maybe a similar thing, because that, a lot of parents beat their children, and this comes from slavery. I was beaten by my mother, I was beaten by my father with a belt, and this comes from slavery. It comes from you see something, when you do it back, you do it, you think it's good to do to your children. So the Paul Dano character for me was about that. Of course, he is a white Southerner and he has his views on slaves and black people. But for me, it came from a sense of him being beaten by his father, as well as, of course, who he was. The thing with Michael Fassbender, Master Epps, is that he doesn't know how to deal with his condition of him being, basically passionately in love with Patsy. He does not deal with it. And the only way he can deal with it, or basically destroy that love, is through violence. It's to destroy that love for her through violence. And it's kind of interesting that it goes back to so many things. When people are tired, I can't go into too deep there, it's a bit too much, I suppose. But violence is a very interesting thing in the sense of how it perpetuates within the history, within families and so forth, and with other people. And within people you love, and love is very obviously close to hate. I'm here because some members of my ancestors survived slavery in whatever way they could. And they weren't Bruce Willis with an AK-45 and a grenade. They had to deal with it how they had to deal with it, which was surviving. It wasn't pretty. It was. I mean, could you imagine being born a slave? I mean, I think it's the worst thing that could ever happen to a human being. Someone who's born a slave, someone who doesn't think of himself as anything other than what the so-called master thinks of him, which is nothing. The psychological damage of that you are born into an environment where you are nothing. And I think, when you sort of fast forward slavery to today, and you walk down around the streets, you see the evidence of slavery everywhere in America, in the West Indies, in London, in Europe. You see the evidence of it. But this stuff has not been dealt with. You think of the Holocaust, you think in Germany and so forth. And I think people are actually study that, dealt with that, dealing with it, and continues to deal with it. Slavery hasn't even started. It's a deep psychological wound. Deep.